I am the only Palestinian American serving in Congress, and I have a family members all throughout the West Bank and what many people call the illegally occupied territories. But we're here again, reaffirming Congress' support for apartheid, policing the words of women of color who dare to speak up about truths, about oppression, is just not what we should be doing here in Congress. And let's just get this record straight here. This is not something that's made up. The United Nations, Human Rights Watch, Amnesty International, Israel's own largest human rights organization, B'Tselem, all agree that Israel is an apartheid state. To assert otherwise, Mr. Speaker, in the face of this just body of evidence is an attempt to deny the reality and to normalize violence of apartheid. This week, we're going to hear consistently that people touting about like, oh, this is bipartisan support here. Well, don't forget, this body, this Congress supported the South African apartheid regime, and it was bipartisan as well. But you don't have to take it from me to understand the racism of an apartheid government. Let's take a moment just to hear Israeli government's own politician in their own words. Direct quotes, not mine. Current Prime Minister Netanyahu, on his policies towards Palestinians, quote, beat them up, not once, but repeatedly, beat them up until it's unbearable, and said that Israel must, quote, crush Palestinian hopes for a fully sovereign state. One of the former defense ministers said Palestinians are, quote, beasts, and they are not human. He's talking about people like my grandmother, Mr. Speaker. How about former justice minister who said they should go, as should the physical homes in which they raise the snakes. Otherwise, more little snakes will be raised there. How about another former defense minister said, quote, those who are against us, there's nothing to be done. We need to pick and axe them and cut off their heads. Another quote, there is no such thing as Palestinian people.
Gentlelady's time has expired.
At its core. Mr. Speaker, Israel's own president, who's
the gentlelady's time has expired. Does the gentleman from New York reserve or yield?
I give the gentlelady 30 seconds.
Israel's own president, Herzog, who's going to come before Congress tomorrow, has long advocated against interracial marriages. Did you all know that? Do you care? He said on the news segment, look it up. When he came to America, he said, quote, encountered something that I call an actual plague. I saw my friends' children married and coupled with non-Jewish partners. Israel is an apartheid state. The government is deeply problematic in the way that they are proceeding in the structure of oppression. This year, Mr. Speaker, just like I speak up against injustices here in America, this is about speaking up
against the gentlelady's
against
time has expired.
Violence.
This is a gentleman from New York.
Congress must
yield
stop
or reserve.
funding apartheid.
Yield back the balance of my time.
Okay, the gentleman yields back. I recognize the gentleman for Texas.
Mr. Speaker, I'm prepared to close.
Gentleman's recognized.
We say there's nothing progressive about racism. Racism is ugly. And I know my colleague, my dear friend, Mr. Meeks, a member of the Congressional Black Caucus, knows what racism is. He's also the strongest supporter of Israel. I know our colleague John Lewis knows what racism really is. And racism is ugly. Israel is not a racist state. My father was a bombardier in a B-17. He bombed the Nazis. Why were we at war with Adolf Hitler and the Nazis? For many reasons, but fundamentally because of their values. They were anti-Semitic. The Holocaust. Racism in its ugliest form took place in the concentration camps in Europe, and indeed in Auschwitz, where I've attended, to see the horrors of what mankind can do against mankind. Why was the state of Israel formed? Israel was formed out of a racist society to say to the world, no longer, never forget, we will not tolerate racism. And 75 years later, we stand here in this body celebrating this democratic state in the Middle East that was formed because of persecution and because of racism. We do not stand for racism. Anyone in this chamber should stand for racism. And we cannot call Israel, which was formed as a result of racism and anti-Semitism and hatred, to call that very country a racist state is repugnant to all of our values. I think everyone in this chamber should vote yes. Because, as my dear friend across the aisle knows, racism and anti-Semitism have no place, not only in this chamber, but not in America, and not anywhere in the world. And where we see it, we denounce it in its most ugliest form. So this is a call to action to defend her, to defend the nation that was created by primarily the United States and our allies as a result of the hatred that we saw come out of Nazi Germany. And so with that, Mr. Speaker, I urge all my colleagues to vote yes, and I yield back the balance of my time.